All right. So good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Please let's type something on the chat if you can hear me. So I'm sure that I'm being heard. Good morning, Toba. Could we quickly confirm if I'm being heard? Okay, great. Thank you, Victor. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. We have a few persons on the call. Please, could we say good morning? You're welcome to our monthly webinar from D Brown Consulting. This is the webinar series that comes our way every third Thursday of the month. Good morning, Joshua. Thanks a lot for joining in. Good morning. Good morning. Let's say good morning, and please you can tell us where you are joining us from. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We welcome once again to the webinar series. This is our financial modeling webinar coming our way from the Brown Consulting. I have a poll up. We just want to attend to the poll in some seconds. Okay, so today we have a very interesting conversation, just like we do have in all our webinars. So we have very exciting topics that we bring to us to get us better informed on how we can deliver on our work, how we can optimize our processes, how we can be more productive when it comes to our task and our activities generally. This is our financial modeling webinar series, like I did mention earlier, and today we are talking about the best approach to building a revenue component for a fintech. Obviously, we have so many fintechs around. You know, the uproar of fintechs around is just is just going exponentially. So how do you then build revenue components for them? This is a question that comes our way almost every now and then, and we have decided that, okay, let's have a webinar to address this so that everyone gets to know some of the best approaches to this, and then you can on your own try some stuff around it. Our sponsors for this webinar are D Brown Consulting, CFA Institute, and Office Training Hub. We appreciate our sponsors. They have been assisting us. They are the ones that are making this possible so that we can always bring this exciting stuff to us every month. D Brown Consulting again, CFA Institute, Office Training Hub, and Finance Professional Network. We say thank you to all our sponsors. At D Brown Consulting, what we do is we help organizations achieve more with their data. So when you think of data, anything around data, think of D Brown Consulting. You want training that is data related, think of D Brown Consulting. Maybe you want training on data fundamentals, you want something on Excel, you want something on financial modeling, any data tool that you just think of, then think about D Brown Consulting. And as well, we consult in that area too. So we help you build analytic systems, we help organizations optimize their processes, build agile processes, we help them to automate processes. So when it comes to business automation with Power Platform, that is one of the core at D Brown Consulting. We have our Office Training Hub, which is the learning management system. We have a number of courses on the platform. I'm going to share the link to this platform as we go on with the webinar today. I would advise that we try as much as possible to explore those courses. We have so many exciting courses there that when we lay our hands on them, we'll sure be glad that we did. So I would share the link to the platform on the chat as soon as we progress into the conversation. And so we know we have a number of free courses there, so they are not all paid. You can get onto the platform, filter down to the free courses. We see very exciting free courses there that are even more than some paid courses out there. So I would enjoin us to explore this after the webinar. The link will be shared shortly. At D Brown Consulting, we have our virtual training delivery methodology, and I can say it categorically that this is unique to us. You sure cannot get this anywhere else. And our delivery methodology has been split into 4 phases really. We have the 4 A's. We call it the 4 A's. We have the assessment, we have the awareness, the assimilation, and the application. So if you want to know more about how we run our trainings, this is just an overview of how the training runs. You can register for any of our virtual trainings. So we have our open trainings that comes monthly most times. Other times it could be in 2 months depending on our training schedule. The link to the training calendar would also be dropped on the chat so you can see the list of trainings we have for the year, and you can key in into whatever schedule that works best for you. Today, our host is David Brown. Yes, everyone we know David Brown. David Brown is the managing partner at the Brown Consulting. He's a Microsoft most valuable professional. That is the peak of what you can get from Microsoft. You are working with Microsoft technologies. Once you become an MVP, it's the highest recognition for your community service, for the impact you're making, for so much around them becoming an MVP. So it's not a child's play. So David Brown is our host for today, and to introduce our speaker for today. Our speaker is Victor Ogundele. Victor Ogundele is a financial modeler, an analyst, and a trainer at the Brown Consulting. He is a certified advanced financial modeler and also a Microsoft most valuable professional. Victor knows his business very well. He knows his audience very well. So when it comes to modeling, when it comes to Excel, when it comes to the office generally, so when it comes to even some practical things that you can't really think of. So Victor is there. Victor is able to handle those very well. And Victor today will be showing us some of the best ways, the best approaches to building revenue components for a fintech. That is what we are discussing today. So Victor will give an exposition, a very clear one to that, and I enjoy us. Let's stay tuned. Let's be here with us. Get your notepads, jot things as much as possible, follow through with the demo, and later today we are going to share the replay with us as well so that we can catch up with, because there are lots that we are going to give to us in this webinar today. Thank you so much, Abu Bakar. Thanks a lot for joining from Yobe State. We are glad to have you join us. Tajudeen, thank you very much for joining us today. And by the way, my name is Mohsin Hamid. I'm a business intelligence analyst and the trainer at the Brown Consulting. I will be the anchor, the moderator for this session today. So Victor, good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you, Musin. Thank you for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I wanted to show my face, but let me hide it today.
For now,
let
for
me
now.
let me hide it for now. Let me hide it for now. We're actually working
Okay.
from home, so yes, yes, yes. All right, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, irrespective of where you are connecting from. Thank you to my wonderful host, right? Musin, that was so smooth, right? I love that. So thank you. Without wasting much of our time, right, I say once again a very big welcome to every one of us, and welcome to our webinar, which we usually have every third uh, Thursday of every month. Okay, so what are the things we'll be doing today? So we just go straight to the point without wasting much of our time. Understanding how business generates revenue. Let me also give you a clue. We have one wonderful prize for us at the end of this training of this webinar, and it's just to give prices like a discount, like you could be lucky to get 100% discount, 80, 90%. I'll be mentioning some things, right? So just try and pick those points, because use it to play one interesting game at the end, and that game is what we kind of pick the top three, then you get the access to the prize. So keep in touch. All right. So understanding how business generates revenue, irrespective of what you do, irrespective of the business or businesses that you do, definitely revenue is key. Revenue is key. All right. Yes. Business is all about you generating income, but right, you generate that income, you need to manage your cost efficiently so that you have that good profitability stand. Then it's not all about profit. The finance guys are always more concerned about the cash, those free cash flow that comes from the business, because everything is all about money, money, money. So that cash element is very important. So you understanding how a business generates revenue, because revenue is actually the umbrella of every business. Leave it or take it. Even a non an NGO establishment also need income, right? So the revenue is like the umbrella, because if anything eats that your revenue, the business is gone. Everyone is eating from the revenue. And component of revenue, we kind of tie that into what we call drivers in business and financial modeling. Financial modeling as a whole is all about driver. What is driving this line item? What is driving this line item? If I want to forecast this, what can I use as a base, right? So then we come with our games, prizes, and demo. So let's take a look at it. As I said, You understanding how a business generates revenue is very important. Someone give you a job, a task to do that. Oh, please, can you build a model for me? The first thing you ask, how will you be generating revenue? What are the strategy around it in generating revenue? Fintech is more like having his own stand now, right? As my colleague mentioned, and it's really taking over. And there's one power in what is making them gain ground and having that value, having that huge valuation, right? So those are the things we'll take a look at today. So when you hear anything like components, right? I'm quite sure some people that has listened to my presentation we always understand how I try to explain things. Components. Anytime you hear anything like components, it's just saying what are the one or two things that we just need to put together before we call this thing this name. So if I ask you what are the components of a car, definitely you're telling me, oh, you must have your four tires, right? I know we have three wheels tire, we have two, right? But okay, we have four. You have your windscreen, right? You have your bonnet, you have your engine, you have the seats, right? Those things must be put together before you call it that name. Now let's relate that to we saying component of revenue, irrespective of the industry. I repeat that, irrespective of the industry, irrespective of the uh, business canvas or your business model that you operate, you must always have price and quantity. Take it or leave it. For a manufacturing firm, you are saying, oh, how much are you selling this your product? Are you selling per carton? Are you selling per unit? Are you selling in pieces? Then the quantity, total quantity, total unit that will be sold or that was sold at this particular period, and you multiply it by each other and it gives you the revenue. You go to a telecommunication industry, they're saying, oh, what is our price? What is our quantity? Definitely price, oh, average revenue per users, and the quantity is the total subscriber that we have. Multiply it, it gives you the revenue. You go to oil and gas, you say, oh, what is the price per barrel, or how you decide to measure it, right? Then you multiply it by the total production, right? You go to banks, you're asking, oh, banks, how do you generate revenue? Because those are the things that you need to understand. So, oh, for banks to generate revenue, focusing on their core business operation, definitely, oh, what's the total loan that they've given out, which is comes with quantity, right? Total loan that has been given out, and what is the yield that was charged, or like what's the interest that was charged on each of the respective loan, and that will give you their revenue. So, as a modeler, first thing you need to understand, how is this business generating revenue? Right? And that's more like what really drives the business. Understanding how business generates revenue, they said, and that now kind of tie into how you approach building a model. Many people usually get stuck when it comes to let's build industry-based model. Right? I have a colleague of mine that was relieved of his duty a while ago. He's been a modeler for the past 4 years. Then he went to they went to another company industry, right? They gave him, oh, can you build a model for us, which is a bank, and he got stuck. It was funny, right? And it's not as if he does not know it, but because he actually did not have that knowledge of this basic thing. So kinds of model, and how do we approach that? As I said, ask, how is this business generating revenue, and that will guide you into you knowing where to start the model build from. Most business or businesses, they are more of profit or loss driven, which means the line item that drives the whole business operation can be found in their profit or loss account. So you see that cost of sales, let's say for a manufacturing company, cost of sales, that's where you see their opening stock, their raw material purchases, their inventory, the unit sold. So which means the more unit they sell, the more revenue they can generate. So which more like we call it top line item. So that revenue and cost of sales is what really drives the whole business, right? And there was this school of thought that is saying, yes, measure everything. When we do our ratio calculation, we measure everything against revenue. But we should always remember that cost of sale are more like unavoidable expenses that you must incur before you generate that revenue. So if we have our gross profit, we should be able to also measure everything against gross profit. So management accounting, we call it contribution because that's what is left for everyone to eat from. So which means most businesses are profit or loss driven. And the other one is balance sheet driven. So most financial institutions are balance sheet driven. For example, a bank, how do they generate money? Let's look at the true map of it. You take your money, you take it to the bank as savings. It comes under their liabilities, right? Which means to start the build for that kind of business, you need to start from what? The liabilities. How many uh, customer we deposit at this particular period? One, right? What is the average deposit per each of these customer? Then you multiply that, it gives you what you have as deposits and savings in their liabilities. Then they now convert that savings, they convert it into assets, which becomes the loan and advances that they now give out, on which they now charge that yield, or some call it interest rate, to now go back to their profit or loss account, which means most of their line item in profit or loss account, they depend on what? They depend on balance sheet. So which means, to build a model for a bank, you build out the balance sheet first. You don't start from profit or loss account, because interest income, interest expense, impairments, right? Which other one? Those fees income, fees expense, they rely on those two guys, right? And you have some investment security that they also do. So you as a modeler, those are the things that you first need to understand before you jump into building a model. Because if you want to build a model for a bank, if you are starting from profit or loss account, automatically you are off. Though there are some companies that they are more like in between and a little bit balanced, right? But that will be a discussion for another day, right? So please always remember, if you have questions, you can always ask as much as possible, and the recording will also be shared with us after the session. Now, as I said, modeling is all about drivers. You want to forecast this thing. You're asking what are the things that can drive this. So let's say, for example, I want to forecast my revenue, and I'm asking, what are the components of this my revenue? What must I have before I can get this guy called revenue? So you can have your price, right? Quantity, and above all, capacity is one thing. If you have a platform that can only take 1,000 subscriber, then it does not make sense when you are forecasting that you will generate revenue from 1,500 subscriber without making provision to expand your capacity. Demand, right? This is more like you now taking it a step further into the economy, right? If the purchasing power is high, definitely you tend to sell more, right? Growth, for startup, it's always easy to break things down into price, quantity, but when it comes to mature company, right, it might be difficult to break things down. So as such, we use what we call growth. Now, competition is one. If your business is so good, right, if it's so good, then expect competition, right? Because they would also come into play. So those are the things. So you want to forecast your cost of sales. As I said, revenue is like the umbrella of every business. If there's a case where you really cannot break things down, you can set cost of goods sold as a percent of our revenue, right? If you can break things down, what are the cost per this unit? How many units, right? Factor in the inflation, which kind of take care time value of money. Go straight to the next one, our selling, general and admin expenses, which we also call our operating costs. As I said, almost every line item can be set as a driver to your revenue, right? Now remember, that revenue must be more like the key driver of the business, right? So if you can break everything down into each cost, our monthly cost, our salary, you can also do that. Inflation, time value of money, a competition, and you wanting to expand. Definitely, if you're expanding, you then also have to do what? To incur some operating expenses. Now, depreciation. So these are more like the line item that you can have in a profit or loss account. Depreciation, if the company does not have asset, definitely there's nothing you are depreciating, right? Fixed asset, what is the depreciation rate, or what is the asset lifespan? For the net finance cost, right? Oh, are they making use of loan financing? Do they have overdraft? What is the rate on it, right? What is the cash investment? Are they investing some of their cash? Then for the tax, we are saying, is there profit before tax, and what is the tax rate, right? Keeping everything being equal. So let's go straight to our demo. And what I want us to do today is this. I will try as much as possible to be very, very detailed, and if need be for us to have the part two of this, right, I will not mind, and I would really appreciate us to ask as much question as possible. So I'm going to start with a blank Excel, right? I could have decided to start with a model, but I decided to keep things, let's keep things simple. Let's keep things simple. Let's keep things simple, right? So let me just create a sample. Let me create a sample template, right? So when I building my model, I don't usually like seeing this line. I don't know why. right? I always like it to show like our white paper, right? So let me keep this. All right, let me just keep this. So let me just create a sample, just a sample, a simple template, so that we can build everything from scratch and we carry everyone along. So let me say, what's the name of our company? Let me call this the brand Tech Limited, right? I hope nobody is using that name. It's just a generic name. But anyone want to suggest a better name for us? So let me put it in this color, right? So what do we do? Let's say um what do we do? What do we do? Anyone? So loan offering. Okay, so they don't usually call it loan offering. Let's say we are offering cash support, right? Cash support, cash support to individual. You know those kind of right word that you need to use when you think about business strategy. So I think this is fine. So let me put this as the let me so cash support. Is it to individual? Oh yeah, cash support to individual, right? So I'm just trying to create something. So let me call this description. I put this as my description. Let me make this my unit. And here I can have some of my inputs come here. All right. And let me say I can have my row total here as well. So let me reduce this guy a little bit. Don't worry, you have access to the recording. You have access to the recording. So let's say our period. So let me just type let's say 31st 31st December 2021. So let's just let's don't worry about the day. So let me just put this plus one, right? Convert this into date. Then here, I really don't want to add code. Well, okay, this okay. So let's just keep things constant, right? Right. Yeah, forgive me. So our standard is saying you should never add code in a formula, but month, let's put this as 12, right? So minus one, so that can give us the end date. Okay, yes. So I think this can still be forgiven if you type 12 like this. 12 will always be 12. Right, unless you want to convert the model to maybe yearly or so, to quarterly. Okay, I hope the date is correct. 1st to December, 1st to December. Okay, great. Then let's extract the year. So let me use my year function in Excel, and so I would like to make this appear like this. Financial F and F. Yes. So don't worry if you think I'm too fast. As I said, you will get the recording as well as that we can use. Right. So let me put this as period count, this plus one, and I can have this. Right. So let me keep this constant. Let me freeze this panel. So if I scroll down, this heading is still there. Right. I'm not a friend of multiple colors, but right, let's just let's design this a little bit. Okay, I think this is good. This is good. Just a sample template. It's just a sample template. It's just a sample template. Okay, so let me now duplicate this. Let me duplicate it for other worksheets, please, in case I'm doing something and yeah, I know I'm very fast. Don't mind me. I don't know why I'm always this fast, right? Because you can always ask question and I can refresh back. So let me call this my input, right? And let me call this my calculation. So let me call this my calculations. Then I'll call this my what? Let me call this my output. So output, component of our model, basically our inputs, your calculation, and our output. Right. So let's work with that approach. So here, let me put the title. So let me call this assumptions. So you can always be creative when you are building your own template. It's not a must if you kind of follow this, right? You are allowed to, you can be very flexible. So let me call this calculations. And let me call this our. So let me just copy this style. All right. And let me call this our output. So I always encourage anytime you want to build any model, it's always good you start afresh. Yes. I'm not a template modeler. Yeah, I prefer to create my stuff right from onset. So now let's assume uh, a business case now, right? Let us say we want to create our revenue component. So let me call this our revenue component. So under my input, let me put this at this time, right? But before we do that, this my calculations. So I want this my calculation to be monthly. right? And not yearly. It's always good whenever you are building a model for a startup to always make it a monthly model. It's kind of tell you a whole lot story about that. So this, instead of having this 12, I'll just make it a 1 month. So it's 1 month period, right? So I actually need 60 because 5 years multiplied by 6. Okay, 5 years multiplied by 12. They don't mind me. This maths of a thing. So I need this, so I'll just come here equal to last period plus 1. Remember, this is a calculation worksheet, must not have any input. Then let me just try and count 60 period, 60 period, 60 period. So I need like 60 period, 60 months. Okay, so let me just copy that to right. Okay, now I have this. Then I can now go ahead. Left to right consistency, which is what our financial modeling standard is saying. Build only for period 1, right? And just copy everything. So I'll just copy this up to the 60 months. So let me open up everything. Right. So December 31st, 2026. That's the same thing we have in our yearly one. Okay, all right. So build it and you can always consolidate this into a yearly model. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I will now close this my Excel here. So by the time I put a formula in year 1, I can always drag it for the 60 years, even if I have 10,000 years. Our standard is saying left to right consistency, build it in period 1, then copy it to the right. So let me just do this and let me close it. You can right click, right, and click on this hide or use the shortcut, but that's you can always learn about that. So that's what we have for our calculations. Now let's think about our assumptions. As I said, this is a fintech, and what they want to be doing is they want to be giving out. So let's first understand how the business works. Because as a modeler, you really need to understand what this business is all about. Please always ask as much question as we can ask, as well, right? Yes, I know I can be very fast. Don't mind me. Don't mind me. My fingers are always fast. I don't know. I don't know, put that speed there. So always ask as much question as possible. Okay, so let's assume what we want to be doing now is we want to be giving loan to individuals, right? And the way we are going to approach it is this: everything being equal, as I said, you can be flexible and the whole thing just for the purpose of this model. So we will try and restrict it to some certain things. Let's assume we want to be giving loan out to people, and our source of loan will be so the platform will actually be taking care of two things. You can actually save on the platform, right? And you can also borrow money from the platform. So keeping it, everything being equal, uh, our the total loans that we can give out will depend on our savings. So which means if we have like 100 million savings from people on our platform, that means we can give out loan up to that 100 million. But the next thing you need to ask is this: we need to make provision for people that might want to withdraw on the platform. So which means we really cannot give out the whole 100 million out as a loan. We need to make provision for some, right? So let's take it, let's start. So let me call this our savings assumptions, right? Let's call this our savings assumptions, our savings assumption, or we can call it savings input, either one, savings input or savings drivers, anyone, right? Savings input. And let's first start before we even go here. We are missing out something which is more like the main driver of the business. Can anyone tell me? Can anyone tell me what do you think should be the first thing we need to consider before we even start talking about the revenue component? What is the main driver for most of this fintech? Anyone? Just type in the chat box so that I'm sure we are together. The use, thank you so much. So users, which is more like the main thing. Users, some call it customers, right? Either ways. Users or customers, right? So this one, let's call this our users input, or maybe users drivers also. So first thing we need to understand is this: we need our base users, right? So there's something we call base users, and there's something we now call active users. So these two, they are very, very important, right? Most times it's not about the number. Yes, you can have like 1 million users on your platform. What if maybe just 5% are actually making just 5% are actually active, right? Which means the business is actually generating revenue from them. So let's start. So let's say our base users. Let's assume for the base period, we can, so let me put that here. So I think this should be number, right? This should be a count, but let me just use this as number. So remember, we created a unit column here. Your model must always have this unit column. And here, I'm just put this as input. So let's say, okay, no, this should not be input. Let me make this just one unique front. Okay, this is fine. So let's say they can start with, let's say just 500, 500, right? Then how will this grow? How will this grow? So let's have our monthly users, monthly base, monthly base user, okay, user growth. So how do we expect this to grow month on month for respective period? So I need to put that in input. Our financial modeling standard is saying whenever you are building your model must always have a very clean and clear description of what each values in your model represents, right? So someone will know that, okay, anything I see in this format, you always have it in input. Because I was in a hurry, normally you're supposed to create that menu guide, right? Start guide that kind of give description. Anything you see in this format means input. Anything you see is linked from another cell and all those things. So let's say monthly base growth. So let's say for year one, right? Throughout the month, let's say they can have let's increase our user base. Maybe we can say with 5%. The following period, let's say with 12.5%, right? Then the other period, let's say 10%, right? Right, because when you get to a level, when a business gets to a certain level of operation, their growth seems to slow down. That does not mean the revenue is decreasing, right? The truth is there's no business that actually grow on a straight line growth percent. I'm not saying yes, revenue can be increasing, but the percent difference is not always as high as that. So this, let's make this 5%, and for the last period 2.5%. Right, so let's even calculate this. So we will be taking it one after the other. Let me go to my calculations and let me call this our users, our base users. So base users calculation. So don't worry, we are not in hurry. As I said, if we are unable to finish today, then we can convert it to a series, right? So we continue it the upcoming webinar, right? So let me just call this calculation. So I always try to maintain that two headings. Just make your model navigation easy. Yes, it's really, there's nothing special about it though. So base users enter, right? Copy. We have that as our base period. So this is actually linked from a cell. Let's keep that in mind. Working with that whenever you are building your model. Now I need our monthly growth. We need our monthly growth. And now look at this. We have our inputs as yearly. So we are saying for this period 2020, 5% throughout year, 12%, and for the respective period. And now we want to build our calculations. We want to build that monthly. So which means we need to be able to pick this percent and bring it here for the respective period. And the formula to use, I think I would like to use our lookup formula, right? Lookup formula. And what that will do is to look for this period, current year that we have in this our monthly calculation. Look for it in this period of our assumption and return this value for each respective period. So let's do that. I think lookup should work. So let's try lookup first. Try lookup. The lookup value, we are looking for this 2022, which I'm going to log the row. So in case I want to use the formula, I can use it. Then look for it in this our year period that we have in this inputs, which I'm going to keep constant. Okay, I think I've missed that. So let me do that again. Equal to look up, look for this period, which I'm going to keep the what? The row constant, comma, then go to my inputs under the year date that I have here. Look for the date, look for the year, and what are we resulting? So the results vector, and I'm going to keep the column constant so that I can always make use of this formula for another cell. So let me put this into percent. I can just drag it to the right. So you can see for year 2022, right, everything will grow by average of 5%, right? You can also have your input structure such that maybe June, from June to March, this will be your growth. Then maybe from, so that's more like you factoring seasonality, right? So you are saying, oh, January people tend to save less and all those kind of things. You can also factor it, but that's discussion for another day. So let's keep things straight. So which means for our base user, that will now be equal to the base period multiplied by 1 plus this respective monthly percent. So these are users, so you should not have points. So I can copy that to the right. All right, now let's create our base user schedule. So our base user schedule, right? So we're going to have our beginning users, add new base users, base users that we acquired. Then we okay, we are not ready. This so the churn one. Let's put that under active users. Yes. So let's have our ending base users, ending base users, right? So this should also be in number because it's a count. So copy this to the right. So this can set this just as our total format. So beginning, so for our base, that will be this 500 that we expect. And the same thing will now be our beginning balance, will always be the closing balance for previous year, right? The added one will now be this current year growth minus this previous year. So that will give us almost that same thing with what we have. So beginning users plus new users, right? So here it's easy for us to see the added users for each respective period, right? So and we can always consolidate it into yearly. So for 2022, how many users? So I think this is just 398 users. I think that's the fair. We can always adjust this later. Now for the active users, let's say uh, active users will now be so percent. So it will be percent of our base users. That will be percent of our base users. So percent of our base users, right? So I can just copy this format and put it here. So let's say for this period, let's see how that will grow. In our first year, percent of our active users, right? Might slow it down a little bit. Let's even say like 50%, and let's hope we can increase that by 10%. So this plus 10%. So so remember these are inputs. So I just add, so let me copy it and paste it back as value. This must not contain any formula. Remember, they are inputs, so they can always come back and adjust it. I just use that to be able to get that. So 50%, 60%, 70, 80, 90. I think it's supposed to slow down a little bit as well, right? Because if you are saying I have 1,000, 50% of 1,000. Now, if you now have 10,000, you are now saying 50% of 10,000 is still greater than that 50% of 1,000, right? So I think you should slow down a little bit. So make this 60, right? To make this 60 so that the financial will not be shouting up and down, right? Just see some people's model, see the figures shouting. So percent of our active users, right? So and let's have our churn rate. So I can also copy this as well, right, and put it here. So our churn rate, let's just keep it at 10% for now. Remember, it's a model, right? So build out the layouts. When you have the output, you can always come back and change the input. Now, so let's so we have this, right? Any other thing we need, we can always bring it back here. For the revenue, let's say savings. What is the percent? So percent of active users, percent of active users that will be saving on the platform. So let me just copy this, right? So percent that will be saving. So remember, our active users is as percent of our base users. So you can see how that link and how the business kind of operates, right? Active users is a percent of our base users. Then we are now saying from these active users, what percent will we actually be saving on the platform? So the first period, first year, let's say 40%, right? They really don't have uh, confidence in us yet. So maybe the year two, now we are gaining ground, we have our stand and the whole thing. So we can now start to increase it. Here, let's say 60, then 65 and 65, okay, or 70. So we have more people that save, right? Because they now trust our platform, right? So those are more like things you need to think about. So people that save, also definitely we need withdrawer. We need people that will be withdrawing, right? So withdrawer, right? What percent can we set as our withdrawal? Anyone? 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 So we can always send in our question, please. We can always send in our question. So withdrawal, all the percent will be withdraw at least. So this will also be, so let's say percent per month. So withdrawal will be based on monthly period, right? So maybe we should just, let's keep this at maybe 25% of people will be withdrawing their money, of the amount saved will be withdrawn, right? Is that right? Is that correct? Right. Okay. We can still we can work with that. So what more? What other things do we need? 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 So now let's look at our average deposits. So average savings per users, right? And this will be, so let me use my company, my country currency, naira, right? So more like naira per month. So how much would they be saving per month, right? So so let's put that as our base period. So maybe let's say average person will be saving like 20,000 monthly, right? And we can now increase that. So average savings growth monthly. So that will also be, so let me just copy this format, put it here. So I think this should be, so maybe let's just keep everything 10% constant for now. Remember, we can always adjust it. Then the other thing we need to consider is average saving savings time. So someone can decide to save uh 20,000 two times in a month, or 1,000 or 20,000 three times in a month. But for at least let's just keep it at 1% for now, right? Number of times someone can save on our platform, maybe one time, two times, and the thing, right? So withdrawal, let me put this. So withdrawal as percent, withdrawal percent of savings. So that is clear. Percent of savings, right? Right. And one other thing you can also do is you can also create scenario around this, right? So you are saying, oh, base here. So okay, what if you have this? What if you can get more than that? So high case, low case, right? Best case, base case, best case. You can create that scenario. So it's always very, very interesting, right? When you are dealing with a typical fintech. Then what will be the yield? The yield on savings. So someone that is saving on our platform, definitely to actually to entice them, we need to be able to give them a percent, right? But I think the percent is always more like a yearly home. So let's put it as percent per annum, or per year. Anyone. So I think, well, okay. So for this one, what is the average you can actually get if you are depositing money now? Hmm? Okay, for at least for now, let's just put some fictitious assumption. Let's just say 10%. Let's leave that for now. Let's leave that for now. Now that we have our savings, let's go straight and let's have our loans, our loans input, right? Loans and advances input. So don't worry. As I said, we might decide to just make today to get all these assumptions. Then next period we then try to do start the other part of it. So make it more like, oh, this is part one. Then we can have our part two. And I know we still have one part that we did on our visualization that we did December also. Right? We need to revisit some of them. So the first one is what will be the percent of active users that will be taking our loan. So let me just copy this format and let me put it here. Right? What will be the percent? What will be the percent? Let me be the percent. So a percent of people that will be taking. I think we should have more people that will be taking loan than people that will be saving. That can be funny, right? So which means the business might need to go and source for funding to be able to meet up these guys, right? But so let me just fictitious assumption. Let me say this plus 10, plus 10%, right? So let's just keep this. Let me put it as a value. So remember, so let's have this for now. We can always change it and have our rest. So what is the average loan that we can give? So average loan to users, right? So this will also be more like per month. Let me put it here, so I can even copy this format so that we can work faster, right? So I can copy that and put it here. So average loan that we can give out to users, right? Let's say maybe 10,000 per users, right? So what is the average growth? So let me type that again. Let me just copy this. So average. So let me see. So this will now be average loan Average loan growth. Average loan growth, right? So please, if you have any question, you can always ask. Okay, I don't think people who take loan are more than percent of people who save. And don't worry, we can always adjust that, right? It's just input. Let's just put everything together first. By the time we start doing our calculation, if it's making sense, if it's not making sense, we can always change that. So average loan times, and this will also be per month. So let me just copy this unit and put it here. So for our average loan, what will be the percent? Will be the percent, what will be the percent, what will be the percent? So let's say okay, so for the average loan growth, maybe we should just put that as 15%, right? So remember we are saying it's from the savings that they have that they will be giving out loan. So which means there's already a capacity restriction there, because you can only give out loans based on what the percent of savings that you have on grant. Now, if maybe they will have some other source of funding or some working cash somewhere else, that will be another story. But for this one, let's put it like this, right? Right. So also loan disbursed. So let's look at loan disbursed, loan that will be disbursed from our savings. Loan that will be disbursed from our savings, right? What will be the percent? So let me just copy this. So this should just be this should just be a normal percent. So what percent will be disbursed out in form of loan, right? So um, let's just put some, let me just put some fictitious, let's say 40%, right? Then second thing is loan period. So anybody that will give loan, what will be the period of the loan period, right? So I think this should just be, so anyone we give our loan to should be able to pay us within 3 months. This is just 10,000 naira, right? You agree with me? It's just very simple. Then what will be the yield? More like interest rate, yield on loans that we give out, right? So I can just copy it and put it here. So let's say average of 3% per month, right? Is that fine? Or 3.5% per month. So on our loans, right? And this is what we have as our input, right? And how do we now use this to build our uh, dynamic revenue components, right? So I think because of our time, let's call this our part one. Who would like to see the part two? Or should we just end everything here? Then let me even hear from you guys. Do you like what you are saying? Will you like us to have the second part of it? Will you like us to have the second part of it? Let me hear from you guys. Right. Remember, everything is yearly. We are still going to convert everything to monthly, just like this. Then we now build one waterfall revenue, one waterfall revenue, right? So you remember 3 months, 3 months loan. So which means anyone we are giving loan in month one will be able to pay us back within the next 3 months, right? This person that have taken loan in month two also will come in, and those person that has taken loan in month four will also come in. So we are going to see that waterfall and how we build that, right? But because of our time, all right, this is just an hour session. So next one we'll come back to it. Okay, so I think I have a lot of questions come here. So what do you mean by churn rate? All right, thank you for that question. So churn rate simply means someone comes to your platform, right? Make a transaction today, and the person did not come back again. So which means it's more like customer that you lost, right? Which means customer that did not come back. All right. So I want to know if it's being recorded. Okay, yes, it's being recorded. What's the definition of active users? I thought it would be users that save. Yes, it's still the same thing. Yeah, but fintech just kind of have their own terminologies. So we have base user, which means yes, we have 1 million users that we know that yes, these people have downloaded our app or something. Then out of this, how many are actually transacting, right? How many people are we generating revenue from, right? So why is this? Okay, so what is the definition? Okay, so why is it as a percent of active users? Okay, I think I've answered that, right? Okay, so hi Victor, thanks for the session. Please, how can we get a reasonable basis for all assumptions for input? Okay, so that's another discussion. Getting your accurate assumption and all those things. That's another. I think we might have another webinar on that, right? So maybe we'll just be picking webinar from webinars. Right. So please, can you share the Excel sheet? Okay, yes, this will be shared with us later. as well. All right, so thank you so much. I will need to drop my mic. As I said, we have one wonderful prize for us at the end of this session, right? You are going to win some wonderful prizes. So let me drop the mic to my other colleague, Toba, my man. How you doing? I hope you are there.
Victor, yeah, thank you so much for this session. This was mind blowing. Great work, great work. Thank you so much.
So let me stop sharing my screen so that you
Okay,
can take over.
okay, thank you so much. So to take over from Victor, I would like to continue from where Victor stopped. He mentioned the game that we had to play. Basically, this game is just to test our knowledge of what was done in this session today. To join me in playing this game, just let me drop it in the chat. You can go to cow.it and put in this game pin, or you can take your phone and scan this QR code. So to take you to where I am now before I start the game. So let's just start players in. And like Victor mentioned, there'll be a mouth-watering prize at the end of the game for winners. For the first, second, and third winners, they all have prizes from Big Consulting for attending the webinar. So for those who are unable to make the first, second, third prizes, we still have a product offering. We'll be offering to everybody who attended the webinar. So you may still want to watch out for that as well. So I would like you to join me. Okay, thank you. I have Shaya in. So I'd like to have others join in as well so that we can. Okay, I'm card. Thank you. So that's please let's join in so we can start. I will be starting the next 2 minutes. So for those who are unable to join, I would like you to join before we start things in the next 2 minutes. Thank you, Alex. Okay, so let's join in. You can scan the QR code or you can go to cow.it, the link is in the chat, and enter the game pin. All right, thank you. Thank you. The game pin is in the chat, is on the screen. So let me put it in the chat. So the game pin is in the chat as well. All right, so 30 seconds more, just for people to join in, 30 seconds more. Okay. So to scan the QR code, just take your camera, put it closer to the QR code I need to scan, and you would be able to join in like that. Fried plantain, welcome. All right, so 15 more seconds, and we kickstart this. So basically, the fastest finger is who ends up winning each game round. So for the first question, the fastest finger wins the session. Then we'll go to the next question. So we have just 4 questions, 4 cheap questions, I would say. So the fastest fingers gets to win the quiz at the end of the day. So we'll be starting now. We have 15 participants. So we'll be starting now. All right. We are set to go. One and go. Okay. So this is the first question, and the options are here. Okay. So the next one. Okay, so for that session, Daniel was the winner, followed by Shea and Lillian, Abe and Fola. So the others did not get it right. Okay, the second question. So you have 16 seconds. 5 more seconds to go. Okay, so for that, the answer is price and quantity. All of us got it right. So let's see the first five fastest. Okay, Abby's leading, Daniel second, Lillian third, Shaya fourth, Winger fifth. We are still not, this is not the end, so we can still pick up and then match winner. So let's go to the next one. So the third question is on the screen. King of every business. We have less than 10 seconds to go. So if you haven't answered, please answer. All right. So we have 15 correct answers and 4 incorrect answers. So the answer is cash. So let's see who the leading team now. Our scoreboard. Abe is still leading, closely followed by Daniel and Sheye. Lillian and Winger fourth and fifth respectively. So the last question for us to know who our winners are. The components of the model are. So let's go, let's go, let's go. Less than 15 seconds to go. Two, one, zero. All right, thank you so much. So 17 correct answers, one incorrect, and two incorrect answers basically. So the answer is input calculation and output. So now let's check our scoreboard and see who our top three winners. Okay, so the podium finish. Third is Sheye. He got 4 questions. Abi second. And our winner is we should know the winner. We should know the winner. Daniel. Daniel came from behind, I guess, and then he took the first position. So Lillian and so Lillian took fourth, and the person, apologies, I can't really remember the person name. So I'd like to say thank you everybody for joining. So for our winners, you will be reached out via email. But to display what you have won, let me do that now. Um, so this is the price for each of the winning position. The first position has a discounted offer for our financial modeling course. So basically, if you loved what was done today in this session today, if you want to even know more, then I would urge you to register for our advanced financial modeling course. And for our winner, that's is Bino. So for our winner for the first position, you have a discounted price on our AFM course. So you have a discounted price of 178,000. It's basically 65% discount on AFM course. So you'll be paying 178,000 if you are to register. For the second position, you have a 60% discount on our advanced financial modeling trainer. It's a self-paced course. So the third position has a discount of 50% on our building corporate financial models course. It is also a self-paced course. So we'll be reaching out to you via email as well. So I'd like to appreciate everybody. Before we close up, like I mentioned, there's an offer for everybody who joined in this session. So let's come back to Webinar Jam. Let's come back to Webinar Jam. So let's come back to Webinar Jam. Let's come back to Webinar Jam. So for this now, I'll be starting an offer. I'll be starting an offer, and I would like you all to, okay, this looks more like my screen is not so clear. So let me just start the offer from here. So if you click on the offer box icon, you'll be able to see the offer. Let me click on the link and drop it in the chat as well. So you are just to register for this offer. If you want to know more about financial modeling, just like Victor had done a brief demo for us, if you want to do more with financial modeling and you Daniel came from Nigeria to win. So if you want to know more about financial modeling basically, so you can click on this chat, on the link in the chat, register, and we will reach out to you via email with a discount offer. So if you click the link, you will see the discounted offer. And if you want to actually do more financial modeling, you can come for our financial modeling course. And I tell you, you would get a whole lot from the course. It is not just from the scratch. It will be taken from the scratch and from the scratch to the advanced level. So for financial modelers, please click the link, fill it, and you'll be reached out to via email. So thank you so much. Before we round up, I would like us to take the session evaluation. So I'd like us to take the session evaluation, but will just give us a minute or two to fill out this form before we go into our session evaluation.
Hi, Victor. Hello, Victor.
So let's fill out the link at the form. Before I drop the session evaluation, I will wrap up for today. So Daniel, congrats. You'll be reached out to via email. And Lillian and everybody who, okay, Lillian was fourth. Abe and Sheye will be reached out to via email. Okay, there's a question. Do you have a specific model cost for oil and gas industry? Yes, we have one. Okay, and as Victor has mentioned, we have one, a project finance cost for oil and gas modeling. So we have one. So let me drop the link to the evaluation. Evaluate how the webinar was for you, things you can think we can improve on. Please drop it. We want a honest feedback. So put it in the form, drop in the chat now. Just click the link and fill out the form. Your honest feedback, what it is that we can add to the webinar and how was the webinar for you, things we can improve on. Just include it, put it in the comments, and we would pick it up from there. So I'd like to appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining today. Thank you for making it a worthwhile session, for the participation, for the questions asked, and the knowledge gained. I would like to appreciate Victor, appreciate Musin, appreciate Dibron Consulting as a firm. I will appreciate our sponsors as well as David Brown and everybody who joined in for the session today. Thank you so much for this session. So I'll just give us a minute to fill out this form before we close the webinar for today. Thank you so much. You're welcome, Daniel.